Episode 29. This episode is brought to you by reelsandtackle.com, your family-owned online tackle store.
Welcome to the Telltale Fisherman podcast, where avid anglers share the story of their best fishing day ever to inspire yours. Now it's time for another epic adventure. So here's your host, John Woodson.
Okay, welcome to the show. Today's guest is Mark Naumovitz, and he is the owner of reelsandtackle.com, an online tackle store. Mark, welcome.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it a lot, John.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I understand we're going to be talking about kayak angling today, and I'm pretty excited about that. I love fishing out of my kayak as well. But before we jump off into that, let's just learn a little bit about you first. You know, how you grew up and started fishing and you know, got into fishing and all that good stuff.
Yeah, sure. Fishing hasn't always been my passion. I grew up in Maine and started from my dad. You know, he was an outdoorsman, hunter, fisher, and fisherman. And basically it was from what he did and me following him along out on the water. You know, I love just being out on the water and whatnot. And but I was kind of like at such a young age. I don't know. I was just more there just to be with that and to have fun out on the water and just enjoy it rather than learning the techniques, the details, the ins and outs and whatnot. So I started kayak fishing in Maine with him in Saco, Maine, fishing for stripers, drifting down the estuaries, saltwater estuaries.
Oh.
And little sit-in kayak, and you know the current would take you so far. You know, it's a 6 to 12 foot swing in 6 hours, so it's a lot of water coming in and out.
Oh yeah.
And you know, so when you get a fish on top of that, it's like, wow, okay, where am I going to end up at? You know, you don't even know. So
a big striper, especially.
Intimidating at a young age. Yeah, exactly. So a little intimidating at a young age. I remember asking Dad, what if I get a good one on? What do I do? And basically just hold on, you know,
Right.
Try to wear them out and, you know, try to get into shore and lodge your kayak into the mud so you don't continue to go downstream because, you know, eventually you have to paddle that back unless you wait out the tide. So,
Oh yeah.
anyway, that's kind of where it all started. And then, you know, grew up and fished here and there, but not like a passion. Moved to Florida after I got done with college. And, man, I found this rusty old lure, checking out some ponds around here, you know, just getting into fishing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a freshwater little swim bait, rusted hook, and wasn't sharp really. But man, I jumped probably a low 30 to mid 30-inch snook on that, jumped it, and I was like, dang, that was pretty sweet, you know? Like, wow, on this stupid little bait that I'd found. And that same bait, I was throwing Jensen Beach. I was throwing around the Mosquito Bridge. It's a popular spot.
Mm-hmm.
One night while I was fishing, and I think it was the third throw or something, and I'm just reeling it. All of a sudden, I get this hit. I'm like, what the heck? And I set the hook, and immediately, like this 4 to 5 foot tarpon jumped out of the water.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And, you know, not knowing the Florida waters, I'm like, dang, stuff like that is in here. And the next day I drove down to Gander Mountain. I'm like, I need a tarpon set up.
Right.
And so from the childhood growing up around it, you know, that being instilled in me, and jumping that tarpon, that's what just ignited fishing for me down here in Florida and just in general. So yeah, since that day, it's been a passion.
Yeah, tarpon can ignite a passion in a lot of folks. And a lot of they can cause a lot of frustration too.
They sure can. Needless to say, it took 2 years. I think 2 years after that till when I first finally landed, you know, my first tarpon. So,
oh wow!
The whole concept of my buddy Carl saying you got to bow to the king, and I'm like, what? He's like,
Right.
yeah, that's what you got to do. You bow to the king, and I'm like, so you call this huge silver fish a king? Like that's like majestic, you know? And
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I take it that that lure didn't survive that tarpon explosion.
Actually, wait, let me walk out in the living room. I think I still have it. Because it's like that's what started it all.
Yeah.
And I think, yep, I still got it. It's right here.
We may have to have you take a picture of that and
yeah.
send it to us, right?
It's a bluegill pattern, like a little 2.5, 3-inch swim bait, rusted hook and everything. So yeah.
Wow. So tell us how you go from found lure that jumps you a tarpon to owning your own online tackle business.
Yeah. Well, growing up in middle school and whatnot, I got into baseball cards and basketball cards and just as a fun little thing. And I would put them in little binders, and during class I would pass around the binder and see who wanted any. And I would cut out little price stickers out of a piece of paper with like 10 cents written on it, 5 cents written on it.
Yeah.
And tuck it in the sheet. And then my buddies would be like, yeah, I want this one, this one, this one. And recess would come and I would make 30 cents. And, it was just something fun to do. And
right.
So we had a family business in Maine. And so kind of the entrepreneurial spirit's always been in me. I have a business degree from Maine. So,
okay.
Yeah, I figured, man, if I'm going to be spending this much on fishing gear, why not start a store and hopefully get my lures for free, with the profits. And then, so that was back in 2012 I started, and I started under the name Mark Sporting Goods, and then it just grew and the word spread, and I was like, man, this is going somewhere. So then I changed the name to Reels and Tackle, and then it's just done very well since then. It's fun, I could do it from anywhere. I could work on my phone. I've shipped to Australia. I've shipped to China. A lot of places overseas.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I'm like, man, my little website reaches people over there. So,
do you have a storefront, or is it all online?
It's mostly online, but I get friends and friends tell friends, and they're like, man, go see Mark. So, I have a little pickup order system. You can order on the site and click pickup, and it's free. You just pick it up, and it'll be ready at the door. So,
all right.
So yeah, it works that way too.
Oh, that's awesome. So, what was that like getting that all set up?
It's a lot of work. I did it kind of as a hobby. I've done graphic design for Florida Sportsman and this and that, and so just I guess along the way, learned to do graphics, learned to do this and learned to do that, and it took about. The initial website took about 3 months, and then when I revamped the name and everything, I upgraded software, and so I had to put everything back on the new site. So another 3 months. So it was more of a hobby, and people say it looks professional, and it's just I'm growing in followers on Instagram and Facebook, and
yeah,
kind of still like a fun thing to do. If you do something that's fun in life, you're gonna enjoy doing it, and it'll show. So another goal to my site, I have a blog on there, is to share things, knowledge, stories, tournaments going on, and have a weather page to show local weather cams, how the weather's doing on all the different beaches. So
right on.
Try to make it easy for people that are just getting into fishing in general. I have a knots page on common knots and that you can tie with videos. So little tutorials. So it's kind of I try to make it just to get people interested in the sport and have the resources available for them, because I've worked in Bass Pro and whatnot. These people come in and we take it for granted what we know, and then these people come in like, how do you tie braided line to a fluorocarbon? And I'm like, they don't even know what fluorocarbon is, so then I got to explain what that is. So,
right.
But it's great to share that with people, to share your passion. It's just fun. I add to it as often as I can, and I just became a realtor about 4 days ago, so
okay.
I do the realty now full time. I'm also an EMT firefighter, so I've got a couple things going on.
Yeah, you're a busy guy.
Needless to say, I need to fish more.
Well, when we get back, Mark is going to share an epic kayak fishing story with us. Stay tuned. Here's a tip for you about sunscreen. I noticed that many of my sun shirts that I use for fishing were getting nasty rust-colored stains on them around the hand and neck areas. Unfortunately, it would not wash out no matter what I tried, and we all know those pretty fishing shirts are not cheap. As it turns out, that staining is caused by an additive which is in many sunscreens, especially the spray-on kinds that I used to use often. Thankfully, there is a brand of sunscreen that is specially formulated without that additive, so now those pretty shirts stay picture perfect. Check out our gear page at www.tell.fish/gear. We have a link to this sunscreen for you there. All right, we are back with Mark, and Mark is an avid kayak angler, as we kind of alluded to earlier in the interview here, and now obviously a saltwater kayak angler, right? Now that you live in Florida.
Primarily. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about your kayak fishing, and then in particular the epic day that you had in mind to share with us.
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, I started kayak fishing in Maine as a kid, and then I think it was when I first started working retail. I met my buddy Danny, and he's like, I kayak fish down here, and I'm like, yeah, I used to back in the day, and he's like, you should go out sometime. And I think I borrowed a kayak for the first time and went with him, and just trying to remember what I used to do in Maine, and because it's a whole different story when you catch a fish on land versus in a kayak or in a boat, because you're almost at the mercy of the fish depending on the size, and but then you learn to use the kayak to your advantage, and there's other aspects of the kayak fishing world where you appreciate kind of nature more. You appreciate the little things because you're not shooting from one place to the next, and so you're kind of soaking it up. It's so relaxing, and so that's nice. So anyway, I primarily fish inshore, snook, redfish, trout, the tarpon when they're willing to play. Anything else, I love exploring. So I've done tournaments everywhere from Louisiana down to the Everglades, Chukwaski to the Jacksonville and the mud bogs there. And so, I've been doing a little bit of everything. And for inshore, I've done offshore a handful of times. My buddy Brian Nelly, Pushing Water Kayak Charters, gone out with him a bunch of times. And pretty much every time we've gone out, it's been an amazingly different experience every time, from going out early in the morning, pitch black, to like, what am I doing, to the sun rising, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. To the storms rolling up. I have a video of me I was hooked up to a dolphin, and the winds and current had kicked up, and I almost flipped my kayak 4 miles offshore, but you could tell I was like, woo, getting all. Ooh. But that's the excitement part of it. And another day we caught 17 blackfin tuna between the 3 kayaks. So,
oh my goodness. Well, that'll tell you around.
They're a blast. And so that's actually what I always hated sushi my whole life. And then biting into a fresh blackfin tuna fillet, searing it up. Actually, right before this, I cooked some up, but there's nothing like it. So that's what started my love of sushi, man. So, anyway, so you want to hear about the big day, I guess?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. So this day I went out with Brian, and we had just wanted to get out and catch some dolphin. We took out some mullet and trolled them, and ended up catching I think seven dolphin, and I think the last one I caught was about 20 pounds.
So how far off do you go when you're in your kayak?
That day we went I think about 4 miles out.
Wow, okay.
And so we went into about 200 feet of water, and so I think that was the day that I had a sailfish free swim under my kayak, and we were out there fishing with all the yachts, and everybody thinks you're crazy, and we're like,
of course, yeah.
Man, this is living the dream, because we're catching just as many fish as you, and we're in $2,000 little plastic boats, and you're in $2 million yacht. So now who's the one laughing, So and so you enjoy it. But anyway, we got in some good dolphin, and this was that day the winds had kicked up kind of at the end, and this one dolphin, he had crossed lines, so I thought I had a double hookup. I had one line out, 2 lines out that I was trolling.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Crossed lines, and so both rods went down, and I thought I had a double header on. And meanwhile, it's the same fish, but it was a nice one, And so I got him in, and we're starting to head inshore, So again, we're 4 miles out.
Yeah.
So we're kind of the winds and the waves kicked up a little bit. So, we're trying to pay attention and not flip and get inshore safely. And so anyway, we're cruising along, and we're joking back and forth. And I'm looking at Brian, I kind of do a double take behind him. I'm like, no. And I look, and there's a fin sticking out of the water, like Jaws, about 2 feet in the air. And I'm like, Brian, you got a huge shark behind you. And he, I joke around. We joke around a lot. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, dude, you got a huge shark behind you. And he finally turns around. He's like, oh. He flips out, and man, this hammerhead shark followed him for a good mile. And I was like, man, thank God he's following him and not me. And so about a mile into him following him, for some reason he started following me and followed me for about a mile. So collectively, about 2 miles, this thing followed us. And so in the midst of that, he would kind of come up to us. It was almost like he was curious at first, because we're using Hobies and we've got the Mirage Drive under the kayak, and we're thinking that would attract the shark visually, and then we've got 7 dolphin in a fish bag, maybe it's dripping blood or whatever. So he would get right behind us, like his hammer would literally would be a couple feet behind our rudder, and he would trail us, and then we would slow down to take a picture, and I guess he would sense it, and then he would peel away and do a big circle, and then come back and do the same thing. He would just come right back behind us and follow us.
Wow.
We'd get close, I'd take a picture, and then boom, he'd peel away again. He probably did that, over the course of 2 miles, he probably did that, I don't know, 10, 15 times.
Goodness.
So, after 2 miles, let's, take some time to paddle that. We're like, what? It kind of got old after a while, because we're like, what is this thing doing? Is he want to eat us? Does he just want to follow us? Like, what's he gonna do? And so he started to get a little bit more aggressive. When I slowed down, he hit my kayak and jolted me around, and so I got out my paddle. Ooh. And he got so close a couple times that I was able to hit him with the paddle, and give him a signal like, dude, get away from our kayak. And he went away for about I don't know, a good 5 minutes one time, and we're like, sweet, he's gone. And then lo and behold, you see the fin coming back, and he's behind us again. So we pulled out our GoPros and stuck them underwater, and we got some good film underwater. And about a mile before we got inshore, just boom, he was gone. And made it inshore and kissed the ground and held up our catches, and we're like, man, what a day.
No kidding. Was there ever a point during this that your heart was just kind of skipping out of your chest, like, oh my gosh?
Well, yeah, in the beginning, we're like trying to figure out what's this guy really want, and then when he got a little more aggressive, it's like, all right, we got to start defending ourselves. But see, we didn't want to focus on the shark so much, because then the waves were kicking up in front of us. So more importantly, we had to focus on the waves to not slip, and so it eventually became more of a nuisance, because we were like, okay, this is getting old. We just got to focus on, keeping our bow straight in the waves and getting inshore safely. So.
Wow. Yeah, that would kind of be a bad time to flip, wouldn't it? With a giant hammerhead right behind your boat bumping into it.
Yeah. All our gear and everything, so.
Oh, yeah. Well, so did it ever cross your mind to maybe throw out a bait for that shark and try and catch him while you were coming in?
No, we just wanted to get our catch in safe and us safe, and just to get in and to watch him, to learn about him a little bit, to enjoy him a little bit, because like, how often does that happen, and they really don't bother you.
Right.
We had, it went to like the Weather Channel and everything, and they're blowing it up from media wise, like, shark attacks kayakers, and we're like, well, no, he didn't, and he bumped my kayak and stuff, but it's not like, we saw his teeth and he's trying to take a chunk out of us. We felt safe, but we just were trying to play it smart and just get inshore safe,
Safe but cautious, yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
It evolved. Well, we got inshore, and then Brian was like, man, I think it was, this was October. It was in the fall. And I think Brian wanted to save the film for spring break, but we, to get that hype going. But anyway.
Right.
With the local news. So I think it was a couple days later, I had to drive back down West Palm, and the local news interviewed us on the beach, getting the story. And from there, from the local news, I guess, ABC News caught on wind of it, and we were called by Good Morning America. I think it was like 7:00 at night, and they're like, we want to interview you like at midnight tonight and show it tomorrow morning. And we were like, what? Wow. So, heck yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So they interviewed us, and the full interview and everything's on my website. You can go check it out. But after that, it was crazy. Our phones were blowing up for Mike and Mike and the Weather Channel, and I have all the websites saved. The California News, Sun Times, all this stuff. So yeah, it was fun being a celebrity for a little bit.
Yeah, who would have thought that what was the shark, like 12, 13 feet, something like that?
Yeah.
Who would have thought a 12 or 13 foot shark would have made you famous, huh?
Yeah, I think the original video that Brian put on YouTube, I think it's over 500,000 hits now, and
wow.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
Man, that's awesome. So we're gonna, in our show notes, when people check that out, we're gonna have links there so that they can, of course, find this epic footage. And I've peeked at it already, and I can testify it definitely would have gotten my heart skipping a beat if he was following my kayak. Definitely. So yeah, I highly recommend y'all check that out, and then also check out the other awesome stuff that Mark has on his website there. Man, Mark, what an experience, and how awesome was that you came and shared it with us today. I really appreciate it,
man. It's still
man.
Fun to share it this day. I'm sure I'll be doing it when I'm 80.
And it's probably something you will never ever forget, I bet.
No, absolutely not. No. But anybody that's hesitant about it, that it's just be safe. It's not a thing to worry about when you're out there at all. You've got, if you're going out for the first time, go out with an experienced guide, and by that time you'll learn some things. Go out with a group of friends,
right.
But absolutely by any means don't let it scare you at all, because it just adds to the experience of life. So start inshore, learn how to use your kayak, learn, just go and learn. First time, if you want to go kayak fishing, just grab a life vest and go to South River Outfitters in Stewart and go see Ed and jump on a kayak and just have fun with it, and then learn, and then go offshore, once you feel comfortable and want to catch some bigger pelagics and have some fun. So by no means don't let my little story scare anybody, It's just a fun thing I experienced. So
yep. No, that's awesome advice, and maybe just don't dangle your fish over the edge of the boat, though.
Right. Yeah.
That's probably a no-no.
Inside the kayak. Yep.
For sure. Oh man. Well, Mark, thanks so much for sharing that with us today. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate having me on.
As much as I would love to fish every day, like most folks, I actually have a day job. This rod and podcaster is a patent attorney during the week. If you or someone you know needs help with any patent, copyright, or trademark matters, just drop me a line and I'd be happy to help. I have a sneaking suspicion we may even talk a little bit about fishing.
This has been the Telltale Fisherman podcast. Thanks for sharing another great tale with us. Be sure to check out the show notes page for more info on today's show and the gear we talked about. Keep those lines tight, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Telltale Fisherman podcast.